Hey everyone, this is Elizabeth at craftsbyhappystamper.com. This card is part of the Team Stamp It Summer Lovin' Blog Hop, and you can get all the details for supplies of this card as well as continue on the hop if you click on the link in the description. So I hope you enjoy this card. Let's get started. So first I'm going to take a piece of 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to take a strip of post-it tape and punch out a 1-inch circle for the sun. So now I'm just trying to line up the post-it tape at the top, and I have a little bit of difficulty with that with the white paper. I can't tell the difference, and you could see the shadow of my head as I'm doing this. Obviously I'm making this at night, so I had to use overhead lights, but hopefully that doesn't upset the video too much. So I started with the sun, which I used crushed curry, ink, and a sponge dauber to sponge in the sun, and not a sponge dauber, but like a 1/4 inch of a sponge. And then I used Marina Mist ink pad with a different sponge. And now I'm trying to just make the ocean. So where the end of the post-it tape is where I'm trying to brush in the horizon line and fill in the ocean. So you don't actually have to go very far with the ocean because the sand dunes that we make later are going to cover up most of the ocean. But you just need, like maybe a good inch down the paper. And then you can take off the post-it tape and flip it upside down so that the thick edge is, towards the top of the paper, and try to cover it up as close to as possible on top of that horizon line that you already created. And you can see me struggling with that a little bit, but it's not that hard. And then you could take the 1-inch that you punched out before, circle, and put it over the sun so that you don't have to worry about that getting in the way. And then I took some soft sky ink and a different sponge and started sponging in the sky. And, there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just trying to get ink on the paper basically at this point. But you do want to be careful at the bottom that the sun is either opening at the bottom of the post-it tape is either going to be covered up by sand dunes, or you don't get extra ink there because you don't want to mix them up. And you do want a clear difference between the sky and the ocean. So there we go. That's it. And then we can take off the post-it tape. I love the reveal. And take off the sun, and you already have half of the card done. So next, let's make some sand dunes. So now I'm just kind of tearing another piece of Whisper White cardstock. I did cut it to the length that I wanted, which was 5 3/8, but the height doesn't matter because we're going to rip it. And just for a little trick, because if you want that frayed edge that I wanted for the sand dunes, it's easiest if you pull towards you, then you get that frayed edge. And then I'm using crumb cake ink and another sponge to color in the sand dunes. So the tall sand dunes, I don't have to sponge the whole piece because that's going to go behind the smaller sand dunes, which I'm sponging right now. But that piece you do need to sponge the whole piece. And it's up to you how dark you want to make it. You can keep going over it if you want to make it darker. But now I'm trying to figure out, okay, where do I want this? Because I want to see the ocean. But, I want to see the ocean. I don't want the sand dunes up too high. So I'm just lining up where I want the largest sand dunes to be. And you can see that it hangs over the edge. And now I'm just taking my paper snips and cutting the excess off because I don't want it to hang over. I want it to be that exact length, but I wanted to make sure that my tall sand dunes didn't cover up the ocean. So now I'm just putting another piece of snail adhesive down, and I'm only putting it at the bottom because I'm going to be sticking the fence in at the top, and I want to have room. So I lined up the smaller sand dunes with the bottom of the cardstock. So I actually already had this piece of scrap cardstock here, which is crumb cake cardstock with soft suede ink stamped with a hardwood background stamp. So I just used the word window punch to punch out a bunch of these, and I think I punched out 7 total of these from the scrap paper that I had, but you can obviously make your own. It's not that difficult. And I decided that 4 was a good number to have for my posts because I wanted them to be kind of wonky, like the sand is uneven. And then I wanted part of it to go across, but if I used the full thickness of the word punch, it covered up a lot of the detail of the ocean. So I taped two together just by the ends, and then I cut it in half, and I put just a little bit of glue so that I could glue it right behind where the um, the stick posts, the fence posts or whatever stick up, because I wanted it to have a little bit of free movement, but I wanted it to, the joints of where I glued those together to be covered up. So you can see me just weaving them behind the other ones. And now I have to cut this last one in half to get a little piece that hangs off the last one so that it looks somewhat continuous. All right, and then I just cut off the little pieces, which I'm sorry it's off camera. I didn't realize that until right now. But I just cut off the little pieces and then glued the edges down so that they stayed. And with the liquid glue, you do need to hold it down just a teeny bit to give it a second to dry in place so it doesn't wobble when you're moving other things around. And that's the basics background of the card. And it already looks pretty good if you ask me. So now I'm going to add my sentiment, which is celebrate, and I'm using my embossing buddy. And it's very important that you use your embossing buddy on this type of card, because if any of your ink is wet, or when you're holding this card to do all the sponging, you get some of your hand oils on it, it's all, the embossing powder is going to stick to all of that. So you need to make sure you use your embossing buddy and get a good amount of powder on the paper before you use your stamp and Versamark ink to stamp celebrate. And right now I'm kind of finicky messing with it off camera, and you can see me, I had to clean my celebrate stamp again, because when I first inked it up I pushed down too hard, and that spongy Versamark pad just gets everywhere inside all the creases of the stamp if you aren't careful. So you want to be careful with that spongy pad. And now I'm just using Stampin' Up's Whisper White embossing powder and covering it. I put it in this special container because I use it a lot. I love heat embossing. And then I just took it to my heat tool, which is not connected to my table, so I went off screen and did that. And that's it done. So now I'm making my little pool girl, or pool boy, whatever you want to call him, but she's going to have a monokini, so I think it's a girl. I use soft suede, I believe, for this one. One of them I used chocolate chip, and one of them I used soft suede cardstock. I'm not sure which is which at the moment, but then I used a piece of the Moonlight Designer Series paper stacks from the 2014-2015 annual catalog to make the bottoms for the bathing suit. I don't know why I'm forgetting my names. Now I'm putting some white eyes. This is just Whisper White cardstock using the Owl Builder punch. And I decided the monokini needed a little strip of cardstock to go tie around the owl's back. So you could see me cutting my little strip now. And I'm going to glue that around the top before I put the owl's breasts on. So I just did that. I'm using my Quick Picks tool to pick up the little circles and put the owl's breasts on. And there you go. Uh-oh, it got stuck. Let's try that one more time. Let's see if it works this time. Okay, there we go. So then that's it. The monokini's done, and you just need to use your paper snips and cut off the little edges of the side bands that's hanging off. And I didn't quite do it quite right the first time, so there you go. Now you do need eyes, theoretically, for the owl, and I just used the basic black marker from Stampin' Up. And it took me a little while to find where it was located on my desk, but I finally found it. So you can see that I'm just adding some pupils, and then I added a few little eyelashes just because I like it, and I think it's appropriate for our monokini owl. And that's it. We are done with the owl. Now she just needs a little bit of snail to adhere her to the cardstock. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to put it on. The card base is a piece of crumb cake cardstock cut at 5.5 inches and scored at 4.25 inches. I'm just putting snail on all four edges to attach it to the card base. Now, the reason why I kept the outside to just celebrate is because there are lots of things that people celebrate, including birthdays. This could be a birthday card, but I can change up the inside sentiment with whoever I decide to send this card to. So that's it. I love this card. I hope you like it too. You can see I made two different owls. They both have the same monokini on, but made with two different bases of cardstock. And this is the final card. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Please click on the description link to get to the blog post and to continue on to see the other awesome projects in the Team Stamp It Summer Lovin' Blog Hop. Thanks.